Greetings, everybody. It's Wicked Wisdoms with Hillary Hurst. Before we get started, I want to make sure that I acknowledge the Great Spirit and her divine ways and her eminence through the east and the south, the west and the north, above and below and within, our ancestors and angels, all sentient being and all life. May it be blessed. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of this great mystery, this great wondrous nature. Hey, everybody. This week I want to talk about fear. I want to talk about fear because of not only the fear that's being expressed, but the learning that I had. For remember, as we discussed last week, this coronavirus is a virus of awakening. And this awakening is that of what does it mean that we're here now? And how are we going to use our consciousness? And how are we going to tell a new story? So what happened to me with fear this week, and I'm not normally a fear-based person, was that I hesitated profoundly from offering another Wicked Wisdoms because suddenly it wasn't new anymore. And I was offered certain ideas about how to make it better. And here's the caveat. I'm not a videographer. I'm not a film person. I'm not a photographer. I leave those for the great expert. I'm usually on the other side of that, graciously. So all I can do is offer the vulnerability of my own self. And I realize the fear that I faced about showing who I was and with my hair this way and as I was in the state of this strange time of quarantine wasn't enough. And I realized, yes, therein lies one of those threads of fear that we've all been raised with. And it reminded me of a story by Pema Chodron that I wanted to share. And that was one day there was a young warrior who was being told as part of her initiation that she must face and conquer fear. And she was terrified of this. And she went to her master and said, I can't do this. And her master said, oh, yes, you can. This is your time. You must go to fear and ask fear itself how to conquer itself. And she's like, but I don't know how to do that. And he said, you must be very honest with where you're at with fear. And so on the appointed day, the great day between the battle of this young warrior and fear, she came to the great field shivering and scared, all alone. And there facing her across the field was great fear in his regalia. Beautiful colors and filled with many, 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 many different intricacies. She trembled and approached fear and said, bowed to fear and said, oh, dear fear. I'm so afraid. I've been told that I must learn to conquer you, and I have no idea how to do that. You, reverent fear, before me, you so much bigger than me. Please, can you give me any indication of how to deal with conquering you? And she bowed humbly. And fear listened to her. And fear puffed up its great wings and said, oh, you respect me, yes. So this is good, and you revere that I have power over you. So I will tell you the secret. Here's what it is. I will talk very fast to you. I will tell you many things. I will lure you in with many things. I will be very convincing because I have power. I have consumption. I know how to get into your guts. And all you have to do through all this time that I'm talking fast and dealing with you is don't do what I say. Therein you can conquer me. Revere me, listen to me, maybe even bow humbly to me. Just don't do what I say. And fear, the young warrior bowed to fear and said, thank you so very much for this advice. And she turned around and walked away. And thus, she learned her many ways of conquering fear. So, how does this relate to me? The conquering of these fears that come up to us during this time of self-reflection are that you can listen to them and revere them. I know well that fear that tells me I'm not good enough and, no one's going to listen to me and I'm full of shit and what the fuck do I have to say and blah, blah, cha-cha. I know those voices well. The difference this time is, thank you very much, voices. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do something different. And that, I believe, is what's being called for now at this time of awakening, if you will. This time that makes you wake up and then deal with the respiratory of your life, your lungs, what you breathe in and what you exhale. The respiratory illness that we're all faced with globally affects the lungs. And what is the lungs? What are the lungs? But that reflects grief. and fear. So here we are at a time where we're learning how to possibly breathe differently. My favorite breath that I learned was breathing in through the nose and breathing out with the mouth. And when you breathe out, you can use any form. If you're scared, you can go. If you're angry, you can go. But the breathing in and the breathing out, this prana now is what we're being called to do. The listening to our fear and saying, oh, okay, I'll have tea with you. Here's some tea. What do you have to say? And listen to what fear has to tell you and not doing what it has to tell you. Understanding it's part of this. We're going to be consumed in various realms of fear, economic fear, the fear of a new way. And what do we have to do? We have to listen in a new way. We have to try something different. And so it reminds me of this self-care thing, because in listening to fear differently, it's part of our new self-care regime. Self-care is another big one that's up. It's not just about taking hot baths with, salts and whatnot, which are wonderful. But whether you can truly understand that you're taking the oxygen mask and putting it on yourself first, which for me at first was a horrible idea. I was raised in a culture where, excuse me, you're not going to love me unless I give myself to you. To learn how to put the oxygen mask on yourself is to learn how to listen to your fear and do something differently. To learn how to put the oxygen on your mask is to sit quietly with yourself and say, wow, this is where I'm at right now. We're in a dream state. That's what I hear. It's so weird. It's strange. Yeah, we're in a lucid dream state. Now, we all know that dreams are the great purveyors of our truth. And I happen to be reading a great book, Master of Lucid Dreams, which tells us that if we can be awake in our dreams, we can transform things. And this is a dream state now that we're all being called for. Self-quarantine. I want to acknowledge profoundly all the ways in which our internet, all the ways in which we're creating, groups on Facebook, international multicultural groups, the $1 million April, oh, that was a funny slip. The 1 million people April 4th meditation on peace at 10:45 Eastern Standard Time, which would be 7:45 our time, where we're calling forth all the light workers and all mindfulness people who want to breathe and think of this. This is the way we're globalizing now and we're mobilizing. How do we take our inner wisdom? How do we move past our fear? And how do we create this new world? How do we face the fear in the field and say, I know what to do, I'll bow to you, and now what am I going to do differently? I'm going to stand differently, try something new, look at myself differently, say, I love you. And so self-care for me has been about reveling in the fact I have nothing to do and I know nothing of what's going on one level. Yes, I'm pretty caught up on the coronavirus and whatnot, but I don't know what's happening. So that opens up a whole new field for us. So I want to acknowledge the frontline workers, our first responders. I want to acknowledge all the people working right now. I want to acknowledge the fear that so many people in our own community are worried about how they're going to pay the rent and how they're going to feed themselves. And I want to acknowledge that there is a growing sense of community in which we're reaching out and saying, how are we going to take care of each other in a new way? It's not about going back to homeostasis, my friends. It's about challenging fear in a whole new way, not doing what it tells us to do, running into a new field. And so I'm going to leave you with a poem of mine that I've been working with for over 40 years, and I want to thank Sharon Davenport for introducing it to me. It's called The Waking by Theodor Rothke, and I wish to share it with you now. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I feel my fate in what I cannot fear. I learn by going where I have to go. We think by feeling. What is there to know? I hear my being dance from ear to ear. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Light takes the tree, but who can tell us how? The lowly worm climbs up a winding stair. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Of those so close beside me, which are you? God bless the ground. I shall walk softly there and learn by going where I have to go. Great nature has another thing to do to you and me. So take the lively air and lovely learn by going where to go. This shaking keeps me steady. I should know. What falls away is always and is near. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I learn by going where I have to go. So my beloveds, my beautiful brothers and sisters, my tribe from around the world, my ones who believe in light and love, I'm reminded of a beautiful statement from my dear friends in ceremony who say, if it's not love, it's not me. And this is the way that perhaps we deal with this fear now. If it's not love, it's not me. If it's not love, it's not you. So thank you, beautifuls. Thank you for being alive during this time. Thank you for being willing to go to the scary places. And thank you for knowing that we are all here now. We are here to open up in a new way and to connect in whole new ways. I see you, I hear you, and I love you. Namaste. Many blessings, my loves. Be kind, be open, stay curious, have some fun.